Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Students Engaged, One Institution's ePortfolio Story, presented by Point Loma Nazarene University. My name is Katie Kalmus, and I'm the Director of Product and Client Development here at LiveText. For those of you on today's webinar that are not so familiar with LiveText, we are an educational software company specializing in the development of assessment technology designed to support and measure student learning. Specifically, our implementation and support services help you customize LiveText's assessment platform and adapt it to your program or institution's unique assessment needs, including course-embedded assessment, rubrics aligned to your learning outcomes, field and internship evaluations, and of course, our outstanding ePortfolio product. LiveText software at its core is focused on your students and follows their academic experiences as they proceed through your programs with a technology designed to document and showcase their learning, both inside and out of the classroom. Our web-based software integrates with your school's learning management system, such as Blackboard, Moodle, or Canvas, as well as your school's student information system, like Banner or PeopleSoft, to be a seamless part of your educational technology environment. Today's presentation is part of our 2014 Best Practices webinar series, which focuses on important topics in assessment, student learning, and continuous improvement. We encourage you to register for next month's webinar with Mark Cook of the University of Hawaii Community Colleges System, who will discuss teaching and assessing student learning outcomes. If you're interested after the webinar in learning more about LiveText software and services, we encourage you to contact us and visit our website, www.livetext.com. And now it's my pleasure to introduce today's presenters. Dr. Kimberly Hogelucht is an associate professor of business at Point Loma Nazarene University, a private four-year institution located in San Diego, California. For over 10 years, Kim has instructed business communication and has directed internships of her students working at various businesses in the field. Kim holds a PhD in Leadership Studies and Education Sciences from the University of San Diego, an MA in Speech Communication from San Diego State University, and a BA in Speech Communication from Iowa State University. Her area of expertise centers on helping college students develop the professional skills needed to secure a job and make an impact in the workplace. Ms. Stephanie Lehman is the assessment analyst at Point Loma Nazarene University. She works with PLNU by helping to plan, implement, and use collected assessment data to show evidence of student learning with a goal of utilizing technology for maximum efficiency. Stephanie holds an MBA from Point Loma and a BS in Organizational Leadership from Azusa Pacific University. We are very excited to have them present to us today and share the good work that they've done on campus around ePortfolios. Please note that if at any time during the webinar you have questions, you can use the Q&A feature in WebEx and be sure to direct your questions to the host. Questions will be answered by our presenters at the end of the presentation as time permits. Again, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Kim and Stephanie.
Thank you, Katie. As Katie mentioned, the title of our webinar is Students Engaged, Point Loma Nazarene University's ePortfolio Story. I'm Professor Kim Hogelucht.
And I'm Stephanie Lehman.
And we'll get started. What you see here on the screen is what the situation for me was before LiveText ePortfolios. I direct internships in our School of Business, and I also teach a course called Business Communication. And for the internship course, my students have 4 assignment due dates spread throughout the semester with multiple items due that they put into a binder, which becomes their professional portfolio. And so I would be hauling all of these crates home every time an assignment was due, so you can only imagine the task that was to get those home and unload them, grade, and then haul them back to school and distribute them back to the students to make changes. And so that is what it looked like before the use of ePortfolios. And what was exciting about LiveText and having an ePortfolio was that I could actually use the same format that I had in the binder, but I could just use it in that electronic version. And so let me show you the sections that were included in the binder that I now have included in the ePortfolio. I have a section called Job Application. So these were the tabs that you would have found in the binder. Job Application, Personal Background, Target Industry Information, Work Samples and Achievements, and lastly, internship assignments, which included various course signature forms, mid and final internship reports, and then supervisor final evaluations. And here is what, inside that ePortfolio, what a page would look like. This is actually the first page in the student's ePortfolio, which once again just replicates what I had in that binder format. The table of contents you'll see over on the left side with those sections labeled job application, personal background, and so forth. And so this first page is the job application, and you'll see the items or the documents that I required students submit as part of that section. And so what they would do is typically you'll see an edit button, and they'd click on that and upload their cover letter, their signed and scanned cover letter as a PDF. And the same thing with the resume. They would upload it as a PDF, their reference page, letters of recommendation, and then their business card. And so in each section of their ePortfolio, I will have broken down what items would be required. So let me tell you a little bit about this transition process from binder portfolios to ePortfolios. It was a little daunting to think of transferring an entire class over to ePortfolios, especially when I was still in the process of learning about live text and the use of ePortfolios. So what I did, my average class size is 25 students. So what I decided to do was to ask for student volunteers to see if I would have a group of students who would be willing to work with me through this process. And I had about 5 students who on the first class period raised their hand and said, we're willing to try this out with you. The remaining 20 students went ahead and continued on with using the traditional binder portfolio. And then the 5 students worked with me in transitioning over to ePortfolios. So all of their assignments were due in live text as part of their ePortfolio. So we worked through some glitches, and it was a learning process for all of us, but in the end, it was a very successful pilot. The students all thought it was just very easy to use and very convenient. And so I wasn't, those students that was 5 fewer folders I had to haul home every time an assignment was due. So the thought of not having to haul any binders home was very appealing. So the next semester, what I did was I sent the students the necessary information to access their live text account. And then I had Stephanie Lehman, who is really our expert here at Point Loma with live text, and she would always come into my class and just do a real brief training the first class period, introducing them to live text and the ePortfolio template. And just to make sure that they knew like how to locate an assignment, how to upload an assignment, how to view feedback that I'd given them, and then make changes and then upload the next assignment. So that was, I think, a really helpful part of this whole process with having Stephanie come in. So for the student implementation, how I use live text currently is in my business communication class, which is Business 313, students begin their ePortfolio at the very end of the semester because Business 313 is a prerequisite for the internship course. So I know all the students that are going to be taking the internship class will have Business 313 first. And so what I do in Business 313 is I have Stephanie come in at the end of the semester, and we walk them through, we introduce them to the ePortfolio and have them upload a few items that they've completed in Business 313 that would then become part of their portfolio that they're building upon in the internship class. So for instance, they create a cover letter and a resume in Business 313. So we have them upload those items into the ePortfolio. And then we let them know you'll be building upon this in internship class. So it will be an existing document in LiveText that you're continually building upon. So then in Business 489, which is the internship course, they continue to build out that ePortfolio with 4 major assignments that have multiple documents due. And so the assignment is due approximately every 3 weeks, which includes making any suggested revisions from previous assignments. So they go in, read my feedback on, let's say, assignment 1. They make changes. Those changes are then due with assignment 2, along with any new items that are due as part of assignment 2. And so each assignment is outlined in the syllabus, so they know which sections of the ePortfolio and which documents they need to load into those sections. So once again, the syllabus outlines those required documents for each major assignment. Once again, 4 dates, multiple items due. The student uploads those required documents into the section as indicated, and then the assignments are submitted every 2 to 3 weeks. When I have finished grading, I email out the students so they know to go into LiveText and view their feedback, and they can now start working on the recommended changes. So this is just what a typical assignment would look like that was actually due just yesterday in my internship class. They had, in the first section, these sections coincide with the table of contents. So in the first section of that table of contents, they went ahead and included their resume, their cover letter, contact information for 3 references, and an image of their business card. In section 2 of the ePortfolio, they included their mission, vision, values, and goals paper. And then in the last section of the ePortfolio, since this is the very first assignment, they have a lot of signature forms that they have due. So they had a release of liability, course agreement, proposal, and learning agreement. So that's just an example of one assignment. So multiple items are due with each assignment. And now here is what it looks like in LiveText. You can see that this is just a sample here. 43, and we've actually shaded over the students' names for confidentiality purposes, but you can see one student is awaiting submission. He did not turn in the assignment. Awaiting assessment, we have 4 students that I have not graded, and in completed, you'll see 43 that have been completed. So what I do is I read through those, give feedback, and in this case, the course is credit or no credit. So I'll either give them credit for the assignment, an incomplete if they're missing some items, or no credit. So I email the students when feedback is completed, and once again, suggested revisions are due with the next assignment. Here is just a screenshot of what it would look like, within the resume once I've given, or within the ePortfolio once I've given feedback. You can see the feedback for the resume. I'd state beautiful spacing. I would add a verb before executive planning, and so forth. So you can see what the feedback looks like. So I go in and I actually grade each document or give feedback regarding each document that the student was required to submit. And then right before I submit the final grade for this, there is a box where you can make general comments. So typically I will recommend that students read through each section of the ePortfolio and include suggested changes and or missing work along with the next assignment. And so the benefits I've found for this as a professor is the student data is in one place. It's not only convenient for me, it's convenient for the students. The students can continue to build upon the ePortfolio even after the class. They can go in and make changes. They can customize the background, and you as a professor can customize that ePortfolio. You can also customize the contents. It's a great source for assessment data, and I know Stephanie's going to talk more about that with you. And then it's a wonderful tool to help students stand out in the job search process because they can simply issue a visitor pass. My students' e-portfolios, as you can see, are pretty basic. They do contain many, many documents and not a lot of bells and whistles, but in my class they do create websites which have a lot more of the bells and whistles, but within the website we link, the students can link to their e-portfolio, which contains this, wealth of information about their internships and work samples from college and from their internships. So it's just a wonderful resource. So now what I'm going to do is turn the floor over to Stephanie Lehman, who is going to talk about some other uses of e-portfolios here at Point Loma Nazarene University.
Thank you, Kim. Our e-portfolio use has been growing steadily on our campus. We use it in several different areas. Today I'm just going to highlight four groups that we use because they're using them a little bit differently from each other. So you've seen what Kim is doing in the business course. Let me first talk about School of Nursing. So again, we've built out a template for our students. The introduction, it's just basically a cover letter to their e-portfolio resume. The students, from the time they start the program until they complete, the faculty work with our students to help them develop a professional nursing resume. The program outcome summary, that is actually where we are embedding some assessment work, and I'll show you that in just a few moments. And then the evidence storage area. And the evidence storage area is where we encourage our students to upload the best work from each course. So our evidence storage area, we have created it's one big section, and then within that section there's a subsection for each of the courses within the program. And I want to say too, all of our undergraduate and graduate students, our nursing students, are now using e-portfolios. No more paper binders. They've migrated everything into the e-portfolio. And again, for that reason Kim shared, it just makes it very convenient for your professors, especially when you have adjuncts that maybe aren't meeting with the students in a classroom, they're meeting with the students at a hospital, for practicums or whatnot. It just, having everything online has been really helpful and convenient. So for our evidence storage area, the students, again, we have them put their best work from each class into their e-portfolio. And the students progressively build their e-portfolio throughout the program. And the emphasis is on migrating their work into the portfolio every semester. So rather than waiting until senior year capstone course where they're scrambling to find all of their, their best work, we're trying to really work with them in each course at each level so that they're not having that rush at the end. And then now the students are also asked to show their e-portfolio as part of advising. So they're constantly in their e-portfolio. The faculty are more and more into the e-portfolios, meeting with the students, looking to see that yes, they're putting their pieces in, and that yes, the students are understanding, what needs to be done. And then I'm pointing out here core artifacts, excuse me. What the nursing also does is they have their students heavily involved with thinking about the learning outcomes for their program as they work on the students' signature assignments. So the School of Nursing faculty have identified where key assignments for their program learning outcomes are assessed, and in those core courses, the students do two things, well actually three things. They submit that signature assignment in live text just for assessment purposes, and I'll show you an example of what an assignment would look like in just a moment. And then two, the students will place those assignments into their evidence storage area. So if you think on the previous slide where I had that little core artifact arrow come up, that would be an example for this particular student's e-portfolio of where she put her evidence for that signature assignment. And then the third thing is the students then create hyperlinks within this program summary table that's in their e-portfolio, so that whoever during the capstone course, there's a team that just reviews this particular assessment mapping. All the reviewers will have to do is click on a link within the table, and that will actually open up that particular document. So the assessment mapping is reviewed by the faculty to make sure that every core course has an assignment embedded within the table, and also that all learning outcomes have been addressed by assignments. And then this just provides the nursing department with some further assessment evidence that they have to provide. me get to my next slide here. So this is an example of what a signature, when there's one of those core courses, when they have the signature assignment that's due and also the e-portfolio assignments that's due. So you can see Future of Nursing Initiative, that would be the signature assignment for the students to turn in, and then the live text e-portfolio submission. The signature assignment will have a learning outcome rubric attached to it, and then usually the e-portfolio is just so that that faculty member that's reviewing those e-portfolio, that they can, give credit, no credit, and again, just to make sure that our students are importing their work into their e-portfolio and don't have any problems with doing that. The next department that I want to highlight is our Family and Consumer Science e-portfolio. So this was introduced just this past fall, and they've done a really remarkable job. Their students, they did a presentation in December on their e-portfolios, and it was just it was fun to sit in and listen to their presentations after working with them throughout the semester on building their e-portfolios. So again, it was most of the students in that class were graduating. They were either December grads or they're seniors. They're graduating in May. And again, they were using paper binders, and their binders, most of them that I saw were probably about 3 or 4 inches thick by the time the students put all of their work and all of their pictures and whatever they wanted to place in the portfolio. So moving it to e-portfolio it makes it really handy for the professor, because if one binder is weighing 3 or 4 pounds, then you can imagine how a class of 35 students would just be a huge, it's a mess. Anyway, so their e-portfolio was actually modeled off of what Kim was doing for her internship class. And then we just made a few modifications. And probably the one that's the biggest difference would be that these e-portfolios do have some of those bells and whistles, which Kim mentioned. Kim's students, they're for what they were using it for, there were probably pieces in it that maybe they didn't want to have publicly accessible. So when we're working with our Family and Consumer Sciences students, we wanted to have them really build these out for future employment purposes, so that they can have something that they can show to a prospective employer, or even to a grad school, if they're applying for grad school, that would show some evidence of their work, and then also that they can use it beyond just one semester of a class. So this is Nicole's, and she had a very exceptional e-portfolio. And you can see for internship practical application, this is the particular section of her e-portfolio. She actually loaded some images, and then she just wrote some reflection on each of those images. So these were her work experience through the time that she was in the program, and then she also, I think, had some internship experience that I didn't crop a screenshot of. But anyway, it's just it was a very reflective time for the students, especially as they're preparing to graduate, and they're thinking about how they developed through the program, in what ways they, what are their professional goals, and what's helped them to get to their professional goals, and then how they can continue those after graduation. And then this would be an example of her body of work section. So School of Nursing, in each of the courses, the students will put their best work. And then in this particular one, we just asked them to pull some highlights of their, so they had to select 5 projects or assignments that they worked on that they felt were a highlight of their time during the program. So for Nicole, you can see in her first, the child development project, she did an administration and supervision in early childhood education. And part of that, she actually put together some binders, some reference binders for parents, and some brochures, and then also some other documents that maybe she couldn't show in an image, but instead she did something really nice by including these hyperlinks. So that she's loaded those pieces into her e-portfolio, but she's also keeping her readers in mind and knowing, okay, they're going to read this narrative about the project, and then just to very handily make those links available so that they don't have to leave their reading or train of thought. They can just open those documents there by clicking on a hyperlink. And then again, same thing with her early childhood education experience. She did some fun things with her I think they were preschool students, and just some learning activities. And so she took some pictures of them, wrote some narrative, but again, she's utilizing hyperlinks to open up anything that she did that was a written plan or, you know, a graphic, something that was graphic that maybe she couldn't show in this way in her e-portfolio. The next e-portfolio was just a very simple, and I'm showing it because it's just basically for program assessment. We met with the senior students, the senior literature students, and we had them upload some papers into an e-portfolio, basically just to collect those pieces into one place. And then at the end of the semester, the literature faculty got together and they had their rubrics attached to this assignment, and they went through, read the papers, and then completed the program assessment for those papers. And then my next, again, there's the papers that they had to load. And then our next group is just for tenure and promotion. We have been using electronic e-portfolios for the last 2 years, 2.5 years for tenure and promotion. The first year we implemented, we allowed the faculty the option of either submitting the traditional binders or doing it electronically. So that first semester, that first school year, we had about half and half of the people applying, either submitting electronically or through a binder. And you can see on the table of contents, these are the main components of our faculty tenure and promotion portfolio that are, they have to, you know, the required pieces where they submit evidence and some essays. So also with tenure and promotion, our faculty wanted to have opportunities to be individual with their portfolio. And so you can see with Jeff's, his background, he selected a background that he felt was really cool because he's a kinesiology professor. And then he also utilized a lot of some color coding, so you can see where he's got his welcome to my application portfolio. And then he wrote a lot of narrative throughout his portfolio. And the next one that I wanted is actually Kim's, her tenure portfolio. She used a lot of videos, so her cover letter was actually a video cover letter. And then she had several student videos where she had interviewed students. She had some demonstrations of her teaching in a class. And then she also had people that gave recommendations. In addition to writing a recommendation letter, she also had asked them to record some video. So that was really unique and very nice. I like to show this to students just to give them an idea of some different things that they can do with their e-portfolio, and then also so that they realize that they're not just required to do an e-portfolio. Our faculty, if they want to be promoted or get tenure, they also are required to do e-portfolio. And then this is just another example of how our faculty can individualize the organization of their tenure or promotion e-portfolio. So Jill, this professor, hers was very clean. You can see she just click here to open this, click here to open that. And so throughout her, she didn't have any narrative. It was all these links that opened up the actual document. So it was a nice, clean way to organize her e-portfolio. And then I get asked a lot about the types of training that we offer here at Point Loma. And so I do all of the training, and I do sessions that range from 10-minute tutorials to a 1-hour in-depth e-portfolio introduction. And then also last school year was the first year I did this, but I started offering open lab sessions around e-portfolio due dates. This is really helpful if I meet with students. I try to meet with students for the 1-hour e-portfolio training about 2 weeks before their e-portfolios are actually due. But, you know, you're sitting in a class, people learn at varying speeds. So having these open lab sessions were really helpful so that students could come in and meet with me either individually, or a lot of them have the same questions. So it was an opportunity to meet with them, and then maybe as a group just talk about things like how do you create a hyperlink, how do you embed an image or a video into an e-portfolio. And then I also do a lot of individual and departmental consultations with students and faculty. So I do in-classroom visits, I'll meet with students and faculty one-on-one, and then I'll go to departments and meet with a departmental group as well. And then now we're really starting, LiveText is really growing on our campus, And so with more users, then I'm starting to be stretched a little bit more thinly. And so I'm trying to utilize more and more written and video tutorials. So my plan is this semester, probably within the next month, is to actually create a web page on our assessment page so that students and faculty, they can access materials and then also video tutorials. This is in addition to what LiveText offers through their help services. But sometimes if I can make a video that's really tuned into what our specific students are asked to do and using their same template, so it just helps visualize a little bit better for them. And then also, because we're getting ready to do a big push on measuring core competencies and then doing some assessment with our general education programs, we're hosting our implementation coordinator in February. He's going to be coming onto campus and then really help with some of those training pieces in a larger group setting. And then staffing, another question that we're asked a lot. All of Point Loma's or LiveText use is done by me. I do all of the reporting and the training, and then I do the account administration. And then during peak times of the semester, I would say approximately 75% of my workday is spent doing LiveText administrative and training pieces. And then during the non-peak times of the semester, and peak time would be probably the 2 weeks leading up to the start of a semester and 2 or 3 weeks after a semester begins. And then same thing at the end of the semester, usually about 2 weeks before finals and then the week after the semester concludes. And then for the non-peak times, I would say it's been about 25 to 30% of my workload. But again, because we're increasing use and we're trying to develop some new things for measuring assessment, then I would say it's getting closer to about 40 to 50% at this point in time. And that is pretty much how we're using ePortfolios on our campus, and we're ready to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephanie and Kim, for sharing your experiences with us. We actually have a number of questions that have started to come in over the course of the presentation. One of the first questions that came in was when Kim, when you were actually presenting what you were doing in your business course with ePortfolios. And the question was more around the pedagogy of ePortfolio, or actually the pedagogy of Portfolio. Prior to moving to the electronic format, what had really prompted you to incorporate the 3-ring binder portfolios within your teaching?
Well, I think basically the reason that I use the 3-ring binders is the internship class is typically taken students' senior years. So they'll take it junior or senior year, but most of them take it as seniors. And so this was just a great way for them to have a place where they can culminate all of their materials throughout their years at Point Loma, and also just throughout their internship, work samples, the things they've worked on, projects they can include. And I also see it as a wonderful way to market themselves to other businesses as well for employment. It just seemed like a logical step because I know in my business communication class, they create resumes, cover letters, and so forth. So it's just nice to have all of that information in one place. So it's just this culmination, and in the end, they're so proud of their ePortfolios and what they have to show employers. So it's a wonderful deliverable and wonderful way to end their internship. And it's not over. I encourage them to continue adding to that ePortfolio and updating it.
Sure, I think that leads into the next question, actually, which is whether or not alumni have access to their ePortfolios, and if so, what costs are associated to the students?
Well, at Point Loma, we pay for the students to have their accounts. However, they do have access to it upon graduating, but I'm going to let Stephanie continue with that answer because she knows the specifics.
Yeah, our students, when they open their account, they basically have their LiveText account for 5 years. And then after that point in time, then LiveText gets the option to renew. And Katie, I don't know that renewal scale, but I don't recall it being overly expensive. So, and then also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say what the schedule is. 1 year renewal is a $25 fee for the year. There's a 2-year renewal option as well as a 3-year renewal option. Also, if the students want to actually not pay the renewal options and basically download their portfolios, they can do so and save it to a thumb drive or save it to their hard drive as a zipped HTML file, which means that it looks just like it does when they open it up in a browser. It looks just like it does when, or like it did when they were live in the platform, but they don't have the editing capabilities to continue to artifacts or change the content or make copies of that. To do so, they could just reactivate their account at any point in time.
Right. So if they set up their account their junior year, it would be feasible they'd have it 3 years. If they graduated as a senior, they'd have it for 3 more years. And then at that point in time, if they wanted to activate after that, keep it active, they would just pay the $25 annually.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Kim. And what we really see, there's a tool in the software, in addition to the portfolio creation tool, there's an ability for the students to really upload any files or any assignments that they think that down the road when they're getting ready to create that portfolio, they might want that writing sample that they did, their sophomore year in some class that they took, but they don't really know because it's, sophomore year and they're not going to be at that point of creating a capstone portfolio or a resume portfolio for another 2.5 years. So that file manager tool that the students have embedded within the system allows them to upload as many files, videos, whatever they may want to upload, and basically treat it like an academic Dropbox where they can really manage and organize their learning experiences all in one place, and then potentially access those files at a later point if they want to create one or more portfolios to share with prospective employers.
Great, yes.
One of the questions that came in next was more about the advantages of live text as opposed to some of the ePortfolio products that are in some of the learning management systems. And the specific LMSs that were cited were Desire to Learn and Angel. And Stephanie or Kim, I don't know if either of you would like to address that or if you'd like me to address that.
I can only tell what our experience has been. We've been using Blackboard and we're in the process of transitioning over to Canvas. And so in Blackboard, if I remember correctly, I believe the assessment component was a module that we had to pay additionally for, and it was expensive. And then Canvas does have the capability to do e-portfolios. We've decided to stay with live text for now because of the assessment piece that we can do that we can't necessarily do within Canvas at this point in time. So in live text, I can load my student demographics, and it's basically almost a data warehouse of assessment work that we're doing each semester in live text. And so then that will allow me to do some longitudinal reporting, especially live text now has a new analytics tool that's it's great. It's drag and drop to create reporting. And I can track a cohort of students, like by program, by gender, whatever kind of reporting I want to do, and I can track them from freshman year through sophomore, junior, senior year, and Canvas doesn't have that capability. And then also we like to have our ePortfolio template kind of, have a stable template. And some of the others that we saw, I didn't have necessarily that capability of having a stable template. It was something that the students could go in and they'd have to develop their own, and which that's great. We want to allow them the opportunity to have an individual ePortfolio, but at the same time, we wanted to have some consistency with a template.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. From our experience at Live Text, we see a number of institutions that may have done some early work using some of the ePortfolio products, either the products associated directly with the LMS or some of the other vended or Google sites as possible samples. So using whatever tools that they were using, you know, prior to coming to LiveText. And what we've really seen, especially with the LMS e-portfolios, is once there's a level of sophistication and expertise on campus around what the real needs are with e-portfolios, is that oftentimes those systems, the needs aren't as sophisticated as they are within the platform that we've developed at LiveText that is really centered around e-portfolios and the assessment associated with e-portfolios. Another question that came in, is there any research suggesting that employers are expecting or appreciate e-portfolios?
That's a very good question. We've actually heard back from several students who have talked about how their internship supervisors, they showed their e-portfolio to their internship supervisors who were very, very impressed. We are actually in the process of collecting data on that exact question. So I don't have an answer for you yet, but I believe, you know, to have something that is that convenient in an online format that's a culmination of your work just really does help students stand out amongst the crowd of students who are searching for internships. So that is something that so far we've gotten positive feedback from the few students who have asked their supervisors, but that's something that we are still, we are currently collecting data on.
Sure. And as you collect that data, I might suggest, Kim, that you submit it in any paper that you write associated with it to the International Journal of E-Portfolios, the IJEP. Okay. We were just at a session here in Washington, D.C. on Saturday focused around e-portfolios, and the editor-in-chief of IJEP actually was talking about various research that they've conducted or that have been conducted by other institutions that then get published in that central repository for information about e-portfolios. So for any of you that are on this phone call listening, if you want to do some research around just sort of thinking that sort of the top thinking around e-portfolios, I would definitely suggest that journal as an excellent resource.
Great.
Then one of the other questions that came in was around the size of the faculty at Point Loma, and basically how many faculty are using LiveText on the campus?
We have, and I don't have numbers in my head, so I would say we probably have about approximately 150 faculty users in LiveText. Now, they're not all using LiveText at the same point in time, but they have active accounts. And I showed you the e-portfolios. We also have faculty that are collecting assessment work on just assignments. Sometimes our students aren't even loading an assignment into LiveText. The faculty are just doing the assessment piece with a rubric in LiveText. And then also we use LiveText for committee work. So, to give you I don't have a number in my head of how many, one particular semester, how many faculty are in LiveText, but I would say probably between 50 and 75 faculty will be in LiveText each semester. And that's growing because we are now starting to use LiveText to do some assessment work with our general education programs. And then also our WASC, who's our regional accreditation, agency, they are requiring that we provide assessment evidence on the core competencies. So putting that into LiveText, it's really helped things grow. More and more faculty see the benefit because it's very easy to fill out a rubric, and then it stores that, and then I can run that reporting that's required.
Yeah, great. And I'm on a committee currently whereby we view portfolios in LiveText, and we do use a rubric to assess them. So all the assessment is done in LiveText. And so it has been very convenient for us because we don't have to meet right. for like 10 years. Mm-hmm. Should I talk about that? Yeah, I'm on the faculty status committee. So in the past, we used to have binders where we'd have to schedule appointments to actually go in and look through the binders to assess candidates for promotion and tenure. And now that is all as Stephanie showed you in her portion of the presentation, the promotion and tenure e-portfolios as a committee, as a member of that committee, in assessing those, we can do that at our convenience. Of course, we have a due date, but we don't have to schedule an appointment to go in and look at a binder. We can do that online and then fill out a rubric. So it just has really streamlined the assessment of those e-portfolios for tenure and promotion.
We're also starting to migrate program review into LiveText, so probably within the next year or so, I would say that that's going to all be done through LiveText.
Okay, great. Now, one of the questions is about the student usage at the college. How many students at the college are using the LiveText e-portfolio?
The e-portfolio itself, that would be I don't have that number either. Each semester, I have about 600 to 800 students actively using LiveText.
Great, and it seems like Kim, you know, and this is one of the other questions that came in a little bit earlier. So Kim, you basically highlighted how you were using it, the e-portfolio in the business program, and then Stephanie, you talked about some other programs that were just getting started. So is the approach to introducing portfolio with students, are you really leaving those decisions to be at a program by program basis, or how are you moving that forward?
Definitely program by program. Our office wants to be really careful that we're not telling our faculty what they have to do. We want to instead provide them whatever tools we can to help them do whatever they want to do. So, you know, if I see some faculty members that are lugging around a 4-inch binder that their students submitted of work, then, you know, my natural reaction is let's move this online. And let's develop something within your program that you're already doing, and then from that we've actually done some modifications so that, you know, maybe instead of it just being capstone, the students are introduced at sophomore year, and then they're progressively building their e-portfolio out throughout maybe the program. But yeah, definitely it's on a voluntary basis and you know, program by program.
And not all of the internship directors, I direct internships for the School of Business, and not all of the professors who direct internships are using e-portfolios, but Stephanie, you know, she's invited some to come to my class when she introduces e-portfolios, and I talk about the contents of the e-portfolio, and so we definitely are educating other professors here on Point Loma about the effectiveness of e-portfolios.
Right. And that's really helped it to grow as well, because then, you know, Kim and School of Nursing, they were our initial heavy users, but then you start demonstrating what their students are doing with those e-portfolios, how they're using them, how it impacts the faculty side of things, and that's really helped promote it here on campus.
Great, thank you. To be cognizant of time, we try to keep these webinars to a strict 45 minutes, and it looks like we're right at that point. There are a few other questions, Kim and Stephanie, that, you know, for those of you that might have had a question that we didn't have a chance to answer, I would recommend that you contact either Kim or Stephanie or both of them. Their emails are on the screen in front of you, and then you could ask them any follow-up questions that you may have. But with that, I would like to really thank Kim, both you and Stephanie, for sharing your experiences with us. It was really a very thoughtful and informative webinar. So thank you again from all of us on behalf of LiveText.
Thank you too.